Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy None, and we back at it again. Sorry for disappearing, by the way. A couple quick messages before we get into these patch notes, baby. So, one, I just wanted to kind of apologize actually to my viewers who are here, especially from the Project Apothecary series. I'm sorry for vanishing in the middle of it. I still do actually have all the material for it. I just got overwhelmed with a ridiculous amount of imposter syndrome, actually, from you guys running up the numbers like crazy on my previous videos, and I panicked and I was stressed between some real life occurrences and some work stuff, and this just I panicked, and so I'm sorry. Those videos are still coming. I'm gonna get them out before the league even starts. So if you see a flurry of videos, I promise I'm not trying to spam your feed and inflate any numbers or anything. I just am trying to get out the content that I did have prepared ahead of time. I just panicked and couldn't will myself to sit down and edit because all of the editing and thumbnail work is me, and I just was too stressed and feeling incapable to handle that. And that's on me. I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna get you guys that content so that you guys can actually see that it did actually end positively. And I just want to thank you guys really for getting me to over 100 subs. That's insane how fast that sub number grew, and it blows my mind. I'm just so appreciative of that, honestly. Anyways, let's talk about this new league though. Affliction League is here. We got the announcement for it yesterday, and honestly, hype as fuck. Like genuinely hype as fuck. I'm gonna try to run through both what we got from the page as well as the patch notes as efficiently as possible. I do not want this video to be painfully long, but there's a lot to talk about, and instead I'm gonna do some focus videos on specific topics. But I just wanted to cover a lot of it in this broad stroke video here, just to give you guys my overall thoughts on the reveal and whatnot. And so to start with that, I just gotta say before I get into the notes, this is probably an unpopular opinion, or maybe, but like I'm not a fan of how much PoE2 they showed in the thing. Like I know PoE2 is the new hot thing coming, but like come on, man. I just want PoE1 news. Can we not like have separate streams for that, or just have it be a teaser with like a talk at the end or something, like in a video format or in a separate announcement? Like having to wait that extra time while sitting there like watching PoE2 gameplay, which it was cool, I guess, but like that's not what I'm there for. I'm here to see what I'm going to be playing in 8 days, not what I'm going to be playing in 7, 8 months. You know. Anyways, that's just a small gripe I had. Back to Affliction League, we got a huge announcement for it. Whole lot of stuff. So let's talk about the new league mechanic. New league mechanic, it works pretty simple, pretty cool actually. You go into this like darkness zone where you're following these wisps around and killing stuff to free wisps that they're leading you hopefully to the king. However, it's gonna take some time to actually get to that point. And then when you kill stuff and get out of there, the wisps that you collect in there will come out and infect other monsters in your zone, empowering the loot that they drop, as well as empowering the strength of those enemies, whatever that ends up meaning. I had a couple first thoughts when I first saw it, right? Number one, the first thing I actually thought when you see like this area that you're in and whatnot is I actually got a lot of synthesis vibes from the way that the darkness zone functioned. Realize there's no photo on the page here, but the darkness zone was actually kind of cool in the way that you like explore around with your limited amount of space that you can cover. Not synthesis in the way that it like closes in on you, but synthesis in the way that like I'm just it gave me a potential concern about like pathing error potential based on this type of mechanic, because synthesis has some problems with that, but I'm not assuming they got that right. It was just the first thing I thought of when I saw it. But as far as positive things go, I have a lot to say actually. I'm really interested in the mechanics, both to loot afterwards. I have no idea what the actual enemies you kill inside are going to give besides the wisps that they give as currency, but the buffs that they give addition to other monsters is actually really interesting. So you have Primal, Wild, and Vivid Wisp. Primal Blue, Wild Purple, Vivid Yellow. It's literally the same stuff as the Harvest Juice, which makes you wonder about the connection between the stories, by the way. But blue gives rarity, purple gives quant, and yellow makes things drop more money, more currency, right? So altogether, very interested to see what that means. And you can have multiple wisps on the same enemy. And more importantly, I want to know, can I control where this goes? Can I always have the boss be triple juiced after running the mechanic? Because things like that give very interesting potential for loot explosions that I would love to see. You know, imagine map boss with all three in there and it just dumps out 16 uniques or something, right? Like it's an extreme example, but like that's type of stuff that I'm thinking about as far as potential for ways that this could be min-maxed, but we'll have to see if we even have control over that. Additionally, there's like shops for these three vendors, or these three colors that you'll use to buy things special to that vendor, as well as progress their quest line to get the new ascendancies. New ascendancies, that's damn right, baby. We have ascendancies on top of our ascendancies. So in addition to our base character ascendancies such as Trickster, Raider, why I mentioned two ascendancies I think are pretty trash. I don't know. Elementalist, if you want to think of ascendancies that are actually good. We now also have the three new ascendancies that they're bringing us. One of the Magi, which focuses a lot on tinctures and attacks, especially through this node here. Coated Blade, which allows you to apply tinctures to your weapon, which then have various on-hit effects, like this one over here gives Culling Strike, as well as like a chance for a Headhunter type mod, which is like that Claw mod, the Elder Claw mod. Things like that exist, or we have these, and these take up a flask slot. So it's an alternative version of flasks that are permanent but more situational. It'll be interesting to see that, as well as generally a lot of these nodes are very attack focused, and there's a little bit of defensiveness with this bark skin node into the ailment avoidance based on bark. So there's some opportunities here for things to do, and I'll have the link for this page in the patch notes and description if you want to go look at some more of this in detail if you didn't already have this link on your own. But I think this is just really cool, potentially some really cool ideas. I think it could be a little weak, at least based on the tinctures we've seen so far. But there's more time for them to show us more tinctures, and when the patch comes out, we'll get to see everything in order. Then there's the Warlock of the Mist, the second ascendancy. This one is focused primarily around life and minions. You'll see like life nodes, such as this is actually just blood magic combined with a new version of what Inner Conviction used to be. If you weren't an old player, you might not even know what Inner Conviction is, but it used to be a node behind blood magic that gave you a free aura, but you could only have one aura. Now we just get life reservation efficiency and a large amount of it, right? That's a pretty difficult stat to come by. It only really existed on Ashes. Ooh, spoiler. And like the life mastery and a couple other places. So having 50% of it here on this ascendancy node is actually really big. And there's a lot of other life scaling enabling nodes. Crimson Power, for example, is an extremely unique effect that has some potential for some insane life stacking capabilities, as well as cannibalize faith for life based scaling. There's all types of stuff here, as well as some minion related nodes, for summoning skills and curses that work for your minions. Things like that are very interesting, and I think it will be cool to explore. As well as, by the way, there are special specters. These corpses are actually for the Ravenous skill that give you damage against those enemies, as you see, like Humanoid and Construct, Eldritch and stuff like Maven and whatnot. But you could also specter them. Yes, that's right. You could have a Hydra Specter. And it looked fucking awesome in that trailer, by the way. Oh my god. That Hydra Specter looks so cool. But so things like this have potential. So there's an opportunity for some insane builds to come out of these ascendancies. And then we also have the Wildwood Primalist. This one is broken. I'm upset, but it's broken. The idea is it is a build a bitch. I mean, a build an ascendancy. I mean, build your own ascent, whatever you want to call it, right? However you want to think of it. I'm going to call it build a bitch for the remainder of this time period, probably all league. You get plus 20 inventory slots and then up to 3 sets of effects from other ascendancies. They're not like other like actual character ascendancies, by the way, like occultist nodes. Like for example, here you can see the occultist pops are here, or the Inquis ground lingering, right? Like the effects of ascendancies can be on these charms, as well as you can also get the Warcries opening chests and corpses thing, but that's like probably weaker than having a third set of ascendancy nodes. Overall, my take on the ascendancies that we're getting, I'm extremely hype for this. I think it's really cool. I'm just a little disappointed that we're getting such a lazy approach to the Primalist, given that the other two ascendancies are meant to enable archetypes directly. Magi is a new way of scaling attacks and interacting with the flash system. Mist is really about these new curses and these new life scaling opportunities, as well as potential for new specters. And then we just have Primalist, which is just going to be generically min-maxing broken. I was really hoping for something more inspired there, more focused as opposed to this nonsense. But it is what it is, right? As for things going on in the core game, right? A lot of rewards, whatnot. The number one thing is that Ultimatum is back. But before I start talking about Ultimatum coming back, I actually want to note 2 other major changes that just like don't really fit anywhere else on these pages. But All release is back as like a small note in the patch note. All release is one of the modifiers on Maven invitations. We no longer have it as a keystone, sadly, but at least it's a rollable modifier again for those of us who really liked all release, whether they released it for fun or for ease. Actually, it's funny. You would think all release makes it harder, but it's actually can be a positive buff because fights like the feared have the feared has 5 whole bosses, and sometimes your build just gets hard checked by one of those, and you could lose a feared run kind of on the quote RNG of just the boss that you need to delete quickly not showing up in the initial batch when you can do your preloaded initial focus before the arena is chaotic. And so being able to do that again is going to be really nice. And also, I just like all release. Fuck it. Also, total unique split core, but no tattoos split core. Those are like the other things. Now back to Ultimatum. Ultimatum returns in place of Metamorph. Catalyst will be rewarded through Ultimatum. I'm actually really sad about this. I really like Metamorph, and they were talking about it in the FAQ or the Q&A, my bad. And they talked about how Metamorph just had one issue left, like genuinely only one issue left with its design. At least as a person who really engaged with Metamorph consistently, I feel like the only issue with Metamorph at the time was that you had to do the lab metamorphs, and the lab metamorphs did not feel good to do in any way outside of the fact that they literally fell over and died because they were significantly weaker than the ones that you had in maps. And I would have liked to see them actually fix the lab metamorphs or remove that part from the loop altogether, as opposed to what ended up actually happening, which is now we just don't have that mechanic. And I'm actually really sad because I loved the way Metamorph felt. However, we get Ultimatum back, so I can't really complain too much because Ultimatum was an incredible mechanic. It was a very fun mechanic to get to stand in a circle and absolutely just go ape shit crazy, murk things for loot for a couple minutes. Like, I love that. It's back. We have now guaranteed 10 waves as opposed to that nonsense where you could just end at 6 and you'd be like, fuck me, right? So, huge fog there. Additionally, the Atlas passes that they showed in the patch notes are actually all looking pretty good. And there's even a keystone. There are 2 keystones, but the one that I want to highlight here is that there's a keystone that exchanges the chance for a boss spawn, because it's forced 10 waves, but a chance for a boss spawn is not guaranteed. But instead of a chance for boss spawn, you could just get 3 additional waves. And I've been told that those are going to scale like crazy. And if you do the 3 additional waves, you do not get to choose your penalties remember correctly, and it's going to be insane. It sounds like a great way to limit test your character, so I'm really excited for that. That's one of the big things that's coming back. Now we have a new huge core game system change in Transfigured Gems. Transfigured Gems led off in the they didn't talk about this in the reveal, it was in the Q&A. Mark talks about how in these 3 systems you can see on the screen here, alternate quality gems, lab enchants, and unique threshold jewels are now combined into this because they previously were ways to provide alternative functionality or strength scaling or scaling points for skill gems, but they felt that some of these felt too student mandatory cough cough alt gems, and more importantly is that their coexistence created a space where you could only really balance around one of them at a time as opposed to all of the options. And I actually really agree. I heavily agree with this philosophy change. So instead, what we're doing is main gem and 1 to 2 transfigured gems for now. Who knows how that's going to expand as we go forward over the leagues. I really hope this does get expanded on because I think we should get to like 3, even 4, honestly. But the big thing is that these are now alternate versions of the gems. Like if we look here, this is Frost Bomb of Instability. You'll notice there's a couple big things here. This Frost Bomb does not have a cooldown anymore. This Frostbomb also does not provide exposure anymore, though. It is now just a skill that you put down and it explodes. And that's all it does. And that's a really cool twist on what it was before. Where before it had a cooldown, it had a limitation of its own cooldown, as well as had a debuff for with less damage. Now it has more damage, but no debuff. So alternative versions of ways to play around these gems. And so that's the idea behind it. You can see like a Blight of Contagion. This is a blight that is actually passable through a contagion. Or you have Firestorm, where this is just the big meteor. There's nothing else to it. Or you have this one, which is just the rainstorms from Firestorm and no meteor. So the possibilities of these transfigured gems are actually really cool. There's a couple of functionality shifts that come with this, though. You should read the full patch notes for all the details, but a couple of highlights is that these do come from lab now. there are no more lab enchants as a whole, and instead you get these transfigure gems through lab in any difficulty. And they said they chose lab because lab is content that players are already forced into anyways in order to get their ascendancies to scale properly. So you'll have at least 4 chances per character to interact with this mechanic. Of course, you can farm it, but the idea being that you already naturally go there for power. So that's just a good place to have an additional potential for power in. And so that's going to change things for farming, as well as because of this change, you can also get things such as exceptional gems from the font. And that could be really cool as a source for like enhances and whatnot. You'll see why I'm mentioning enhance in a bit. Additionally, heist no longer gives these alt quality gems, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest nerfs laced in this patch that some people are definitely reading over, but I know heist farmers are not happy about, because alt quality gems were the core of pretty much all of the value of heist before. At a certain point, like you go from needing the currency making to, oh my god, I just make all of my money off of the fact that I hit these ridiculous alt qualities with div card runes. It's gonna be interesting to see how they rebalance the rewards of heist to accommodate this change, because they did acknowledge that that's something they have to change. And there's some other functionality changes, such as blueprints no longer being reward specific. You don't have replica blueprints and trinket blueprints and what. It's now just blueprint, and the rewards at the end will be just all variable. So we'll see how that comes out and pans out at the end. Next up, there's also the gem quality revamp. This is a massive section. Like, I'm just going to talk a little bit as I scroll through. Look at how many changes are in here. Oh my God. And it's so exciting. Now, I'm going to be honest. A lot of these effects, one second. I'm going to be honest. A lot of these effects are effects you've already seen before, in the form of just things that might have been on quality, such as +1 perforate spike, or +1 fish for earth shatter, +1 secondary projectile and tornado shot. But the important thing is now they're the base qualities, because this also came with a philosophy with the idea that qualities on gems should not be stats you get elsewhere already. They should be a core part of the gem. Kind of like what made certain alt qualities really good. You think about Spark's chaos conversion alt quality. That's a core functionality changing quality, a stat you aren't receiving from gear. It's a stat that you scale with your gear. And also, these qualities are meant to be things that you scale with your gear. And so this is a huge change. Very exciting. You should look through these for your favorite skills, and maybe even skills that you just haven't looked at in a while. There's a lot of really exciting effects in here. This part right here is single-handedly the thing that's got me the most excited for the league, because I think there's just so many build scaling opportunities in this section of the patch. You should really take a look at it. Also, because we're talking about quality, I want you to keep your mind on enhance as we go into this league, as some of my friends that were looking at math that has been suggesting that enhance could become a main link in certain skills because of how strong these new qualities are. Right? Some of these qualities are just so strong that it'll be worth pumping it. For example, let me scroll up a little bit because I know exactly what skill I want to talk about first when I thought about this, which is kinetic bolt. The quality now just adds even more to the spell damage to attack damage conversion. It's already 50% more of that at 20 quality. But imagine you put on like an Ashes, and now that's 125. Then you put on an Enhance, and then you put all of this in a Dialos, right? Like, you could really go overboard on this percent damage scaling concept. And so I think there's a lot of potential here for scaling, and I think Enhance might be a part of that. So be aware, if you think that Enhance is going to be cheap this league, you might be in for a hell of a surprise. Now, additionally, in this section, there's a handful of skill simplification changes or nerfs and changes. A couple of them to highlight. One, Divine Ire is got a nice little rework to how it works. It's no longer dependent on hitting enemies to charge faster. God fucking bless. You can actually use Divine Ire as a fucking range laser beam instead of requiring the channeling to hit things to make it feel functional. Now you just scale up your cast speed, as well as, they made the channel actually deal its damage as opposed to just doing nothing, or borderline nothing, halving the damage, which is really painful. Overall, cool changes there. I think this is actually really exciting for like Divine Ire Ignite potential, especially because they gave back a lot of the damage they took away from the Ignite version in the Nurse and I believe Ultimatum League. Ice Nova, Frostbolt, and Vortex are skills worth talking about for reasons that I want to highlight, which are Ice Nova got fucked. Honestly, it lost a lot of damage and it lost the interaction with Frostbolt. Same with Vortex. It also lost a lot of damage and interaction with Frostbolt. However, I do think it's they said potentially when they were talking in the Q&A, the idea was that Transfigure gems are supposed to allow them to focus the tuning of each gem on a specific way of scaling it. And so I think, for example, there's Ice Nova standalone, and then there's Ice Nova with Frostbolt as a transfig gem, for example, potentially. We haven't seen it yet, but that's my copium, right? That's my copium. Or Vortex lost a lot of its flat damage as well as lost that overlap thing. And I think that's one, potentially a nerf to ignite Vortex, but it could also be a transfig gem for that. It could also then eventually get back the function of overlapping, which could be a transfig gem. And the base version of the gem still has the dot scaling that it's supposed to be primarily focused around. So basically using transfigure gems to make sure that when they're making adjustments to these gems, they're only hitting one avenue of scaling it as opposed to all of its various avenues of scaling it incidentally. Also, Vortex got a cast time instead of a cooldown, an instant cast, and it's going to feel like trash. I'm going to be so upset when I play Vortex for the first time after these changes. Penance Brand got a massive simplification to the gem. If you ever looked at Penance Brand and realized you couldn't understand what the fuck it did, don't worry. You were definitely not alone. Even some of my friends that had played the game at a ridiculously high level couldn't really understand this goddamn gem because it was a dissertation within a dissertation of how it worked in a whole lot of spreadsheets. All you need to know is now it's a bomb. You place it down, it ticks for a little while, and it explodes. But it gives brand notes in brand type scaling. That's it. It's looking a lot better numerically as well, at least as a spammable skill. Some numbers are being done. I'll probably actually be calculating this on stream, which speaking of on stream, by the way, if you see this video, I might already even be live right now. Or if I'm not live at the time, you should check back in the afternoons. That's when I'm live, twitch.tv/90619. It'll be in the description. You'll be able to click on it and come hang out. Because I'm probably theory crafting something, especially with all these new changes. We got to get to work, right? RF, if you're an RF player, I know there's a lot of them this league. Yeah, you're coping hard for a transfig, I'm going to be honest, because you lost the base fire damage per second on here, and it's now the doubling back down on the life scaling life NES scaling that it used to be primarily focused around in this original iteration. I do think that there's going to probably be a transfig gem to give back the spell scaling version of this skill, but right now, life scaling is looking like the way, at least until we get confirmation about more transfig gems, which I imagine we'll get some more information about that in the coming days. One last little piece in here before I get off of skill gems, because the skill gem session is long, I tell you. Stormblast Mine called a leveling nerf, and I just think it's worth noting. It's just a randomly put in here. It no longer shocks enemies, or no longer has its own chance to shock, which takes a lot of its early game strength out in that 1 to 16 range before you get Skitterbots. Just like a random little thing that I found amusing when I saw it. All right, next up. Handful of unique changes, by the way, a lot of changes. Also, all quality, the Vol Gems also got the new qualities. Now, scrolling down and further, we get down to the unique changes. There's a lot of these. The ones that I want to highlight, though, Ashes lost its reservation efficiency. This is just a nerf to an overstated amulet already as is, but I believe it is mostly just because the increased value of the average quality of a gem means that the quality line on Ashes got stronger, and they deemed you probably do not need the reservation efficiency line anymore. It's probably really reasonable to nerf this. It is sad to see a source of generic reservation efficiency go, though, because it is one of the only ways to scale life reservation efficiency. So it feels bad. Heat Shiver got a gigantic nerf. Good. Get the POB patterns out of here, but also this helmet was just extremely broken. You could put a lot of builds together just by putting on Heat Shiver and a Harem Sorrow and calling it a day. And I still think that's going to be the case. It's just not going to hard carry your damage anymore. It's only going to partially carry your damage. Replica Dragonface Flight got an overall nerf to it outside of just the gem levels on it, which is kind of sad, but I guess understandable. But it just came out. Give it some more time to shine. We let Ashes do its thing for multiple leagues. Like, goddamn, somebody played their heart out in Ruthless to earn this amulet put in the game. I don't think it needed to be nerfed quite yet. Something that did deserve to be nerfed, though, is Calm Spirit. I'm so sad to see this nerf happening because I really like these gloves, but I do think it's a good nerf, and it needed to happen. They tripled the amount of life recovery per second needed in order to get one regen per second, and that is going to massively alter rage uptime on people's builds. I suspect that Come Spirit will see almost no use this league outside of people who are specifically looking to go fast, because it's going to require a significant amount of investment now. Previously, the number of people were going for was about 5 to 6 rage per second. 5 rage per second made it and Berserk usable, whereas like 6, 7 made it extremely comfy. But you're going from 500, 600, 700 regen per second to 1500 to 2100 regen per second needed. And I think that's going to be a big enough nerf to really take this out of people's plans for the most part, which again, think it's healthy. Last one I just really want to note is Relic Etchers and Patience got a huge functionality change that looks like it's completely aimed at stopping the equip and unequip nonsense that has been happening with those boots. So yeah, rip that discharge build that people were playing with 33 charges and just repeatedly refilling them this way, as well as potentially rip just the generic boot swap for like characters that rely on frenzy like multi-charge scaling. Kind of sad, but it is what it is. Additionally, a whole lot of base type buffs. These are all experimental bases, by the way. So the ones that I want to highlight, because there's a whole lot of number changes, but the ones that I want to highlight in here are the Psychotic Axe now gives 10 additional maximum rage up. So now it's 20 max rage per one of these axes. And I already like these axes for like rage storm builds. They're generally just rage scaling setups, especially like on a Berserker. I think you should be looking at Psychotic Axes going into this league. I haven't done the numbers myself yet, but I am pretty convinced that this could be something of high value going into next league. Shout out to Boommates for getting a 30% CDR buff. Like getting 30% more triggers is just always good. We love the sound of that. I don't know if it's going to make it viable or anything, but I just know Boommates, right? So that's all that is there. Additionally, Impact Force Propagator is a slam mace that now exerts 2 additional attacks instead of 1, which increases the scaling on your war cries, because war cries scale with the remaining exerts and all that good stuff. So I do expect that this could actually finally see use, potentially, but it's still not an axe. So who knows? We also have these changes right here are these changes right here, man. These changes are wild. So Cogwork and Geodesic rings are the rings that are -1 suffix +1 prefix or vice versa. And now they also increase modifier magnitudes. And this is the buff that they needed to be reasonably competitive with other rings. Because the issue with these rings before was like, okay, so let's say you go -1 prefix +1 suffix because you want 3 reses and chaos res. Okay, but you can just get a regular amethyst and still have that 3rd prefix. And that was kind of the issue. The implicit was supposed to make room for stronger influenced item crafting, but nobody ended up doing that. And so this change just puts more value in it, and this is a good buff. Now, this Simplex amulet change, on the other hand. Oh, great God Almighty. This is a fucking buff. -1 prefix sounds really bad when you think about it, right? Like, oh my God, you lose like life or like level or whatever it may be in the prefixes. But now it's 100% increased explicit modifier matches instead of 25. And this is huge because previously, so let me give you an example, right? Previously, just if you made like a say, I'm a dot build, I need a hunter amulet. I make a hunter simplex amulet with +2 and double dot multi. Now the dot multis are only increased by 25% each on that old version of the amulet, and my +2 doesn't get affected at all by it before. But now I only need 1 prefix and it's +1. And it becomes +2 because of the modifier magnitude increase. But now we have double the value on the dot multis, for example, or crit multi, or cast speed, attributes, whatever it may be. This modifier increase is going to be insane. I actually expect to see simplex amulets all over the place next league, assuming they don't get too rare from heist. Right? We'll have to see how heist farming changes impact their availability. But oh man, I expect to see some magic from these in the upcoming league. Now, additionally, like I said, a lot of these got buffs to make them more competitive, and like they might be more competitive, but I haven't looked at the details on a lot of them because I don't actually play builds that would use a lot of these bases. But I hope that they did become more good in terms of like the numerical changes that happened here. We're almost done, guys. I'm so sorry. Like I said, did not mean this to be that long. Thank you for sticking around this long, by the way. Like, shout out to y'all. Now, two bug fixes that are very important for build planning. Impending Doom is getting its hot fix. The fix that they accidentally put into 322, they're putting it in 323. Therefore, Impending Doom builds in their current iteration are dead as fuck. You lost like 2/3 of your damage because of this fix, which is really sad. One of my favorite skills, one of my favorite builds, just removed from orbit. I don't get why it had to happen, but like, whatever. Fuck you, GDG. You could have at least just said it was a nerf instead of putting it in the goddamn bug fixes. And the bug with returning projectile support, where it was not applying less damage to ailments on returning projectiles, that has gotten fixed. So returning projectiles, Molten Strike, and Lightning Strike setups now are going to do regular amounts of damage instead of the bullshit that they were doing before. Still a good support for those builds, but it's just not going to be absurdly ridiculous nonsense that it was before this patch hit, before this bug fix will hit. And last little bit here, let's talk about the Keurig mods. Not seeing Essence on here makes me sad, but that's why we have the 7th gate, baby. But otherwise, shout out to Ambush and Beyond. I just like these. I like Ambush. I like Beyond. They're fun. All right. Anyways, that's the rundown of this patch. I'm extremely excited for 323. We're going to be doing a lot of theory crafting and some building. I haven't even decided my starter yet. Like, I had a starter plan coming into this, and I'm probably still going to put out that guide that I wanted to put on what I was going to start regardless. But I can't even say if I'm going to start that for 100% because the skill gem changes between transfig and new qualities has opened my eyes to some possibilities, and now it's time to go get baited, right? So, stay safe out there, exiles. Avoid the bait. There's gonna be a lot of it because, man, this patch has got everybody fucking on 35, right? That's it for me. That's been the video. If you've got anything excited that I didn't mention that you think I should be more excited for, please drop that in the comments. Or if you just wanna, shout out an idea that I should be checking out, put that somewhere as well. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.